Your people came after me and my family.
Not my people.
What's this?
Nobody called today.
A coincidence is a conspiracy of the guilty.
You don't know the monsters and what they do.
Let's find out.
Someone on Joe's team betrayed her. Not a Russian agent. Not a stranger. Someone who eats lunch with her. Someone who trains with her. Someone who has probably saved her life before. Caitlin, Cody, Neil, Westfield, one of them is not who they say they are. And by the end of this episode, you are going to look at every single one of them differently. The bear is infected. 3 words. But once you understand what they actually mean for episode 3, you will realize this is not just a title. It is a warning. Because the danger Joe's team is about to face is not coming from Russia. It is not coming from some outside enemy hiding in the shadows. It is coming from inside their own operation. From someone Joe trusts, someone she has fought beside for years. Someone she has probably trusted with her own life more than once. Let's go back to where episode 2 left us, because everything in episode 3 grows directly out of it. Joe was taken off the street by 2 Russian agents right after leaving her own home. We later learned Putin wanted his men back so badly that he was willing to send people onto American soil to make it happen. That alone tells you this stopped being a small revenge job a long time ago. This became a government-level problem. And government-level problems do not stay contained. They spread. Neil was left holding the pieces at home trying to keep the kids calm while his entire world was falling apart around him. Caitlin stepped in with her usual cold efficiency, trying to contain a situation that was already spiraling across multiple agencies. And by the end of episode 2, one thing became painfully clear. The danger was not coming from far away anymore. It was already inside Joe's life. That idea, something dangerous already being inside, is exactly what episode 3 builds on. Except this time, it is not about Joe's house. It is about her team. And that is a much scarier place for a threat to live, because a house has locks. A team only has trust, and trust is a lot easier to break than a door. The title itself gives us a huge clue if you actually stop and think about it. In espionage shows like this one, when people start talking about something being infected, they are almost never talking about an actual virus. They are talking about a breach, a leak. Someone who should never have had access to sensitive information having it anyway, and using it. And based on everything we know about this episode, that is exactly the direction the show is heading. Joe and her team are forced to face the fact that there is a breach somewhere inside their own operation. And that forces them into a risky, dangerous move to try and find out exactly who is responsible before more damage is done. And honestly, when I first read that, my mind went straight back to how fast those 2 men showed up at Joe's front door in episode 1. Think about that for a second. They knew exactly where she lived. They knew exactly when to strike. That kind of precision does not come from luck. It comes from information. And information like that has to come from somewhere real. So heading into this episode, the biggest question on everyone's mind is simple. Who is feeding information to the people trying to hurt Joe? Is it Caitlin, who has access to nearly everything and has shown time and time again that she is willing to make cold decisions if it serves a bigger picture? Is it someone from Cody's task force, the people who were right there in the room during the Yuromov operation that started all of this? Or is it someone quieter, someone like Westfield, close enough to both Caitlin and Joe to know everything without ever being the face of the operation? I have a feeling the answer is going to be someone we already know, someone we may have already started to trust. And that is exactly what makes this episode so dangerous to watch. Now let's talk about what a risky play to root out an infiltrator might actually look like. Because I think this is where the show is going to give us some of its most tense scenes yet. And Caitlin is going to be right at the center of it whether she is guilty or not. In shows built around espionage, flushing out a mole usually means setting a trap. And knowing how Caitlin operates, I would not be surprised if she is the one designing it. That could mean feeding false information to different members of the team. Maybe telling Cody one version of a plan and Westfield a completely different version. And quietly watching to see which version of that information ends up in the wrong hands. It could mean putting someone under surveillance without their knowledge, maybe even someone close to Joe, someone nobody would ever expect to be watched. It could even mean staging a fake operation just to see who reacts and how they react, because sometimes the only way to catch a liar is to give them something worth lying about. And if that is the direction this episode goes, I think Joe, even from wherever she is being held, is eventually going to be forced into an incredibly uncomfortable position once she is back in the picture. She is going to have to look at people she trusts, Cody, Westfield, maybe even Caitlin herself, and treat them like suspects. That kind of paranoia can tear a team apart just as easily as any outside enemy ever could. And honestly, that might end up being the real danger of this entire episode. Not bullets, suspicion. Because once you start doubting the people you have bled for, you can never fully go back to trusting them the same way again, even if they turn out to be innocent. At the same time, Neil is going to be dealing with his own version of this fear back at home. And I think his storyline in this episode might actually be just as tense as anything happening inside Joe's operation. The synopsis makes it clear that while the team is racing against time to find the leak, Neil is struggling with a rising fear of his own. And honestly, I completely understand why. Put yourself in his position for a second. His wife was taken off the street in broad daylight. Armed men showed up at his front door in the middle of the night. His kids are terrified. And now he has to sit there, mostly powerless, waiting to find out if Joe is even still alive, all while wondering if the same people who took her could come back for the rest of his family. He's not a trained operative like Joe. He does not have Caitlin's access to intelligence or Cody's field experience. He is just a husband and a father trapped in a situation that is way beyond anything he ever signed up for. And I think that helplessness is going to eat at him more and more as this episode goes on. I think we are going to see Neil pushed a lot closer to some kind of breaking point here. Maybe he finally demands answers from Caitlin that she is not willing to give him. Maybe he corners her and asks her directly whether someone on the inside is responsible for what happened to his wife. And maybe she gives him nothing but silence. Because that is exactly the kind of thing Caitlin would do if she genuinely does not know the answer yet. Or worse, if she does know and cannot say. Maybe Neil starts making decisions completely on his own to protect his kids. Decisions that could put him directly at odds with the very agency that is supposed to be protecting his family in the first place. He might reach out to someone outside the system, someone who is not Caitlin or Cody, just to get real information instead of the carefully managed version he keeps being fed. Either way, I do not think Neil is going to sit quietly in the background any longer. His fear has to go somewhere. And I have a strong feeling episode 3 is exactly where we start to see it come out into the open. And once it does, I do not think the show is going to let him go back to just being the worried husband waiting by the phone. We also cannot forget that Joe herself is still out there right now. Still missing, still fighting to survive somewhere far away from her team and her family. Even though most of this episode seems to focus on the hunt for the mole and the fear building back at home with Neil, the show has not forgotten about the fact that Joe is being held hostage somewhere. And I think we are going to get at least 1 or 2 scenes reminding